Do we have sound? Do we have liftoff? Yes, it looks like we do. All right. All you guys missed as far as the talking with no sound was me talking about how smooth and then not smooth this intro was. So it's kind of perfectly on brand at that point. Let's try this again. How's it going, fellow Young Calves? I'm Zach Hendricks here with Tyler Babb. And today we are doing another episode of the Pop Culture Cave. It is good to be back. I hope everybody had a great 4th of July, had a great weekend. And we're going to talk about the news. Not too much crazy groundbreaking news this week, but we still we got some things to discuss.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of cool things have been happening. I think both on nothing crazy, but like a lot of pretty cool stuff in the game world and in the film world. It's just kind of you just get these little nuggets, and you're like, oh, this is interesting. This is cool. And so, yeah, I'm very excited to be here. We're going to talk about what? The Switch OLED.
We have the Switch OLED. We have some anime Star Wars. We have some Disney What If, and a few other topics thrown around here and there. It's going to be exciting. Let's see. I see Nick is in here. Cyclone B is in here. Tyson is in here. What is up, guys?
Tyler may actually start watching anime.
Oh, Nick says we got a double echo on you, Tyler. So let me see if I can fix that real quick. Say a word.
Let's see. Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well. It's great to see you, Zach. Hi, Cyclone B. Great to see you again. We have sound. Hey, boys. I'm just reading the chat. Stream Elements bot is running. Stream Elements bot is running. Stream Elements bot. The stream is not broke, guys.
All right. And say more words, Tyler.
Stream Elements bot. We got a double echo, Tyler. He's also low compared to Zach. The level of my mic.
All right, Nick, you let us know in the chat if Tyler's double echo is gone. Yeah, we had a lot of crazy technical difficulties today. Okay, Nick says that's perfect.
My mic decided not to work, so we're going off of my webcam mic.
But, we won't get into details, but pretty soon we shouldn't have any mic problems, so there's some pretty exciting stuff coming down the way. And then, I feel like I look pretty good for a webcam, but my regular camera wasn't working as well. So it's just like, it was like thing after thing after thing, but we wanted to hang out with you guys. We wanted to discuss the news with you guys, and so we are here. Okay, cool. And your volume's great now. All in one go, awesome. Knocked it out. And now that stuff is out of the way, hey guys, you probably want us to talk about the Switch OLED. You probably,
the Switch.
Drop
OLED.
a like if you haven't dropped a like if you want us to talk about the Switch OLED.
What do you think?
All right. So
So here's my question, right? Because I'm kind of outside of this whole thing.
Yep, that's why I was going to go to you and see your thoughts right away, so we're on the same page.
Obviously, on this channel, it was hyped that it was going to be the Switch Pro. But that's not what we got, right?
Correct.
To clarify? Okay.
It's one of those things where when you look at history, it makes perfect sense what we got. I'm happy with it. I also think they could have did a little better. Not necessarily the 4K Switch Pro. But so, if you think, let me see. I have it saved here. Yeah, a bunch of people are super mad that all they did was add an Ethernet port.
And that's fancy. Hey, that's fancy.
It's got what most Xbox 360s had back in the day now.
Yeah.
But they added the Ethernet port, and then we got the slightly bigger OLED screen, but the insides of the Switch itself are not changed. And Tyler might be gone. You are frozen, good sir. But I will still keep explaining to everybody how this Switch OLED works while hopefully...
Maybe I need to get my Ethernet cord. Give me a second and let me do that.
You see, Tyler, he accidentally unplugged his Ethernet cord from his computer and plugged it into his Switch OLED. So that's what's happening now, is his early review copy. of the Switch OLED. But essentially, it's very on brand. Nintendo always does these refreshes, and not just Nintendo, but so does Microsoft. You know, we had, I think, 9 different. Hey, you're good to go now. You are on camera. Everything is working just fine. We can see you once again, so you are good there. I think I said we can see you. We can really just see your chair, but I'm assuming you are over at your desktop or something. What is happening, guys? All right, let's see what we can do here. But yeah, so for Nintendo, I guess I'm just gonna keep going. I gotta do what I can to carry this right now. So Nintendo, you had the Game Boy, then the Game Boy Pocket, then the Game Boy Color, then the Game Boy Advance, then the Game Boy Advance SP, then the Game Boy Micro, then the Game Boy Player. Now, we didn't see any real advancements, you know, until the Game Boy Advance. And even then, I don't know how much of a technical hardware improvement it is. I know we had the smaller cartridges. Hey, Tyler's back. Cool.
Good? All right.
But so I was explaining to everybody how this is kind of very on brand for Nintendo. And not just Nintendo, but the industry as a whole. I know everybody's kind of thinking about how we had a PS4 Pro and an Xbox, Xbox One X, which were stronger versions of the previous generation of consoles that were able to do 4K, for example.
Okay.
And I believe that's still coming with the Switch. I think we are going to get the Switch Pro next year. But what people forget, you know, think about the Xbox. We had 7 different Xbox 360s, you know. That when the Xbox 360 first launched, you had the white one with the top on it, and then there was another white one, and then there was a black one. And, you know, you had the Xbox 360 Arcade, Pro, and Elite. And all 3 of them were the exact same, except the Elite and the Pro had better memory. And then they changed and created more. There was the Xbox 360 Slim, which once again, you could put more memory in, but the Slim still, there was no actual hardware upgrades. You know, now I believe once you got to the Slim, Wi-Fi was built in instead of having to get the adapter plugged in. And so this is very on brand for a video game console generation to upgrade without necessarily upgrading the specs. But then even Nintendo, we have the original Game Boy, then the Game Boy Pocket, then the Game Boy Color, then the Game Boy Advance, then the Game Boy Advance SP, I love the SP, then the Game Boy Micro, then the Game Boy Player. And it's like, between all of those, the biggest upgrade would have been from Game Boy to Game Boy Color, which at that point, the screen has color now. You get a better screen. Oh wait, Nintendo's releasing a console where we don't get any upgrade besides having a better screen? What? But then we also do get a little more internal memory on this Switch OLED, and we also get that Ethernet port, you know. And then you have the Nintendo DS, you know. You have the Nintendo DS, the DS Lite, the Nintendo DSi, the Nintendo DSi XL, Nintendo 3DS, the Nintendo 3DS XL, Nintendo 2DS, the new Nintendo 3DS, and the new Nintendo 3DS XL. Once again, there's not that many upgrades going on there. You know, you have some surface level stuff. You have a bigger screen. Clearly, the 3DS was a bigger jump than any of the other DS systems before it, from the DS to the Lite to the i. But so my point with all that is, like, this is a very regular practice to be able to sell consoles at full price. Because as time goes on, the original Nintendo Switch is in the process of being phased out. I know their ad shows that they're selling it still, and they are, but when they introduce the Nintendo Switch Pro, or whatever that's going to be called, this current Nintendo Switch OLED, is going to drop from $350 to $300. That is the price of a regular Nintendo Switch right now, $300. This Switch OLED is going to end up dropping from $350 to $300, and the original Switch is going to be discontinued. Like, it's that simple. And that's why, you know, all of the people who told us about the OLED screen and all this stuff are the same people who told us about these beefy insides. These are chip manufacturers. These are very reputable reporters. So we are going to get a Switch Pro, and it will look pretty much identical to this Switch OLED. And I still wouldn't be surprised, as I've been saying for years. I think, you know, we might get some cool internals in the dock or whatever, where the dock is an external graphics card or something like that, you know, that basically beefs out your Switch a little bit. Who knows? That's more speculation on my side. None of that has been reported yet. But yeah, so this Switch OLED is not the Switch Pro.
Got it. And is there any change to the dock of the OLED, or is it just...
Yes, the dock is what has the Ethernet port.
Okay.
And it also, too, it's really slick looking. Whether you think that the OLED was an upgrade that should or shouldn't have happened, that dock looks super nice. Like, yeah, it reminds me of when, because remember, you used to, you know, hide your video game systems in your entertainment console, you know, except for the Wii. Everyone had the Wii on that. Yeah, it looks like a toy now, but that slick stand that the Wii went on. Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man 1, there's a Wii chilling right next to his TV. Like,
that's funny.
That was something you displayed with pride, and I think that's what Nintendo's kind of trying to go for with this icy look for the dock. Also, too, I see we are up to 8 likes now. That happened in the last few minutes. Thank you guys so much for dropping the likes. It really directly contributes to growing the channel. The more likes you guys drop, the more views that people who aren't subscribed get, basically. You know, it's how we grow the community, is from you guys interacting and liking the comment. And people are already dropping more. You guys rock. So thank you for that. Just want to say we see it, and we really do appreciate it, and it really does help out. But
so Nick in the chat says a minor improvement hitting a very low bar. What does he mean by low bar?
So we talked a bit before on here about how Nintendo likes to do things in their own Nintendo way.
Yeah.
The original Xbox 360, you had to plug a Wi-Fi adapter into, you know. But then its mid-system upgrade or refresh, because like I said, it wasn't even really an upgrade other than like you can have more memory and store more games. Its mid-system upgrade, you know, added an Ethernet port. You didn't need to plug a Wi-Fi adapter into your Xbox. It was built into it now. You know, you can, and it had an Ethernet port the whole time. That's a little too early for me. It didn't have Wi-Fi. So it's like the Nintendo Switch just got an Ethernet port, basically.
Oh,
and it,
got it.
It just got a moderately better screen. Or not, it got a way better screen. But if you're someone who plays on your TV most of the time, then that better screen doesn't even matter for you because it's not outputting a better image to the TV. It's just in handheld mode. Right. So now it's like, okay, do I trade my Switch in and pay $350 just so I can get a built-in Ethernet port? So that's where it's like, it's you know, it's kind of a low bar when you can compare the Switch to the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. But you know, I like I can't think of his name. I follow him on Twitter. One of the guys who works at Nintendo Treehouse. Oh no.
What's going on? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but OBS just dropped to like no signal, and it's back.
I think we're back now.
It's back. We had a lag spike. Everybody, my apologies. Don't know what happened. OBS it was in the green. It said, "Here's your signal," and then it went boop. Now there's no signal, but we are back. We look stable, so we will continue. I can't think of his name. One of the Nintendo employees that I follow someone, they asked him, they're like, so is there any actual performance improvements? And he said, nope. If that's what you're looking for, he said, if you don't like this current Switch, you can stay with your original one. It's not, if the screen isn't for you, you can stay with your original, was what he said.
Well,
yeah, Nick said it perfectly. It's expected that a game system will have a network port. It seems bananas that it wouldn't.
I guess, yeah, that makes sense.
But I'm still deciding.
Did any of the handheld PlayStation stuff, or no? Did any of it have any Ethernet or no?
I don't think so. But the difference there would be the Switch is a home console that is a hybrid that you can use handheld.
Right.
So the fact that you had to buy an Ethernet adapter, not even a Wi-Fi adapter, you had to buy an Ethernet adapter to play games online, especially with Nintendo's online interface is let's just say it's lacking. Okay. It is a very outdated piece of infrastructure, to put it nicely. And to make up for that, you already needed the best internet connection you could get while playing the Switch online in order to not have lag. That's why you see a lot of times in Smash, we get a good amount of lag when we're streaming Smash. And yeah, Nintendo's entire internet is pretty outdated at this point. And so it's even more important than it normally would be to have a good internet connection going in and out of your system.
They're slowly catching up.
So yeah, so like Tyson, for example, he says, I play the Switch docked most of the time, and my TV does not support OLED, so I'm probably going to wait to buy the Switch OLED. Yeah, well, even if your TV was an OLED TV, there still would be no visual image change for you either way, Tyson. The only difference on the OLED is in handheld mode. Your OLED screen is going to look nicer than the LCD screen on the Switch. If you mostly play on your TV, there is zero difference. The Switch OLED does not give you a better picture on your TV than the regular Switch at all. But yeah, so it makes sense to wait. I'm playing that interesting game of how much will GameStop give me to trade in my current Switch for the OLED? If I have to pay $100 to get the better handheld screen and an Ethernet port, it's like I don't know if I can justify that. But then I also know, okay, well, I would buy the Switch 4K whenever that comes out, if that ever comes out. It's going to come out either, if not late next year, then beginning of 2023. But I'm like, okay, so maybe I still want to trade in this Switch, because then when it comes time to trade in the next Switch, I'll get a better deal. And I'm just like,
yes, yeah.
So yeah, it's a very interesting situation. But yeah, the Switch OLED is going to drop to $300 sooner than later. Nintendo's even mentioned before, I forget, it might have been during the DS system, but this is straight out of their playbook. They've mentioned before how they want to do moderate hardware refreshes to keep the price from dropping. And that's what they did with the Game Boy, and that's what they did with the Nintendo DS. You can't keep the Switch is entering. Jeez, man, is the Switch about to be 5 years old? Jeez, and it's like you can't keep selling a 5-year-old console for a full price at $300. They are right now. Switches are selling out. They're hard to get a hold of still, but
I was gonna say they're really popular still.
Yeah, they're really popular. But once that slows down a little bit, you're going to start seeing sales on the original Switch going down to $250, and then you're going to start seeing the OLED Switch take that $300 slot. But yeah, it's it's a good business move. I think the reason there's so much scrutiny on Nintendo is just the simple fact that on the hardware side, the Switch has been lagging behind the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and the PS4 and the Xbox One. And a lot of people are saying that doesn't matter, but as more and more new games come out that are taking advantage of the beefy specs of these new systems, it is going to matter. And so Tyler is tying an invisible string. But yeah, I think that's really all I got to say about the Switch OLED. Let's see here what Tyson said.
Sure. I just pulled up the article about the Nintendo Mario.
Oh,
thing.
yeah, I haven't heard about that yet.
Yeah. So apparently, as you guys know, Illumination and Nintendo are working together to make the Mario movie. But it looks like, obviously, we have like almost no news on that film, so who knows? But apparently things are going well because Illumination's boss, Chris Meledandri, has been nominated to join Nintendo's board of directors. So that's big.
Ooh, that is very cool.
Yeah, it says Chris, I'm not going to say his last name, founder and CEO of Illumination, has been nominated to join Nintendo as an outside director. The animation studio and the world's leading video game company are currently teaming on the anticipated upcoming Super Mario Bros. Feature film. Nintendo recently made the announcement in their fiscal year-end March 2021 report, which that's what you're talking about, right?
Yes.
When we talked about this yesterday, that's what you referenced, yeah. And plans to name Chris as the outside director at the video game company's 81st annual general meeting of shareholders in June. Actually, that's what you.
That's what I was talking about. The shareholder meeting. Yeah.
Got it. It's this is a quote from Nintendo. It said, "We would like to nominate him as a new outside director with the expectation that he will appropriately supervise our company's management from the objective perspective, while providing valuable advice to our organization based on his board experience and insight gained as a leader in the field of entertainment." What do you think?
You know, I know a lot of people think Illumination and they think Minions, which rightfully so. They're literally in their intro now, even if it's not a Minions movie. You know, they shout Illumination. I know Tyson said in the comments he's a little worried about this one because he feels that Illumination makes pretty mediocre products most of the time, but he's really hoping it'll be good. And I feel like a lot of people feel that way. I'm on the wait and see side of things. I think right now I trust Nintendo, and I do trust Illumination too. But with Illumination, my biggest concern is like kind of like toilet humor, you know, like lowest common denominator humor.
But doesn't Nintendo have like really high standards when it comes to their IP? So
yes, they do, and that's why I'm not the most worried. Is because that Mario movie was so bad. I love the Mario movie so much. The live action Mario movie was so bad, it literally stopped them from making all other movies. You know, that they're like, all right, nope, we're done with this whole TV movie medium for now. And, you know, that's like, I guess I look at the theme park that we talked about on here before, you know, the Super Nintendo Land, and how, you know, like, this isn't just coming from me being a Nintendo fan. And when I say better than Disney, I'm not talking about the rides and the entire experience, but I'm talking about the whole atmosphere. Like, it looked better than Disney in the sense that when you're at Disney World, sometimes you're on the sidewalk and it's just a sidewalk. You know, sometimes there's just some trees. That Nintendo Land looked like it was ripped out of a video game. Every square inch was covered. And, you know, that comes from Nintendo's high standards of how their product is represented. And so that kind of gives me a little more confidence with the movies too, you know, the fact that this guy is now, who's running the Super Mario movie on Illumination's side, he's on their Nintendo's board of directors now, which means Nintendo already has an even more direct line to him than they already had.
True.
You know, that he's going to be in meetings when they're it's not just going to be a meeting with person X delivering what we want this movie to be like in person Y. He's going to be in meetings with the board of directors where everybody's going to be discussing this, that, and the other thing, you know?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm sure that they... Did I freeze again?
No, you're good. Oh, but you did call it. Now you froze. Tyler's
I'm
like
back.
a wizard. He could see into the future. But
Did I-
you are still here, good sir. Double tap
Okay.
on OBS if you want. Double tap on your whatever your camera is, and then when it loads up, you can hit refresh device, or at least you should be able to, and you'll be good, I think. But we can hear you, so we can keep talking.
Okay. I don't... So... What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, well, I'm assuming that they want to build a universe. They want to build a world, so...
I would hope so. That seems to be where the profit is. And so, all right, and you are back, by the way. And that's why, like, I'm worried, but I'm not at the same time. Like, I was a little more worried, but then I was just kind of like, and also, too, we don't know the audience for this film, which is, that's kind of hard. And,
True.
it could be meant just for small children. Like, Nintendo's whole thing is inclusion. When they started bringing stuff to the phone, they said that they wanted to make it available for everyone,
Are you a wizard? Because you just said phone and then your phone.
Yeah, that's true. But they want to get as many people involved in Nintendo as possible. So
Yeah.
I feel like this won't just be a kids movie. And even if children are the primary audience, I'm hoping for something like Paddington. I always bring up Paddington because that is a kids movie, but it's also just a genuinely good movie. It is fun. It's, there's a couple burps, but like besides that, the humor doesn't need, it doesn't need to be dumb humor,
Right.
And that's something I always appreciate in a kids movie because the parents are going to be watching these with the kids, But also, too, so many people for years have grown up wanting to watch a Mario movie that are going to see this.
Yeah, they are making a third one, actually. I just saw that the other day.
Oh yeah, they are, and
Yeah,
that's exciting. And
Not the
I'm
same
thinking
director,
about how
different director.
what is it? What movie was I thinking about? I'm thinking about Detective Pikachu too. Like that was a kids movie, but that also was much less aimed at children than you would expect. They were like, all right, let's try and bring in the Deadpool fans by turning Deadpool into Pikachu.
Nice.
And it worked.
Literally. Was Ryan Reynolds the producer on that film?
I am not sure.
I don't know.
Yes, I am not sure about that.
And I don't know if Pikachu's getting a sequel or not. I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. Technically, spoiler alert. I mean, the movie's a few years old, but he is no longer a Detective Pikachu at the end of the movie. So I'm not sure how they would do that, but I would be down. I loved that movie. I've seen it a few times. Yeah, Tyson says there was a few minor swears in Detective Pikachu, which surprised him. Yeah, that surprised me too. I was like, oh,
Whoa,
did not
all right.
expect
We're
that.
Going for an older audience here. But, well, that's crazy.
And Sonic wasn't done by Nintendo, but Sonic was awesome.
Right.
And that's the type of thing that also, makes me hopeful and excited. So, yeah, I'm feeling good about this Mario movie. We will see what happens. Is this the start to our Smash Bros. Cinematic universe? I hope so.
Could be. I think. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's. You almost kind of see it too. Is like it could have its own like show. It could be it's on some sort of streaming service or something. You could turn the Mario franchise into like a show.
That's true. That is
I don't
true.
know.
I didn't
And
even
we
think
should
about
be
that.
getting, let's see, it comes out next year, so we should be getting some footage at least by the end of the year. For sure, I would
Yeah, I
assume.
would think so. Go to see Spider-Man and we get a Mario trailer in there. That'd be nice.
Crazy. But if you guys haven't dropped a like yet, please go ahead and drop a like. It really helps out YouTube and the algorithm and kicks us out there into the universe. So thank you guys so much. We appreciate the likes.
Yes, we do.
Oh man!
All right, what is
what
our
else?
next topic?
We have the Star Wars Visions, aka
Yes.
Star Wars the anime. What? This was a surprise project that I didn't see coming at all.
Yeah, I know they announced it. What at D23, right? But then like it was just a casual
yeah.
like mention,
Yeah,
and that was it.
yeah.
Yeah, and then this trailer dropped, and I was like, "What? What is this?" You know, that was exciting. Yeah, what did you think about that? Because I know you don't really
So
watch too much anime.
right. So for people who don't know what that is, they basically Disney went to I don't know the exact number, but they went to a few studios in Japan. And basically, I think from the trailer, what I get is they gave them gave them obviously, Disney has rules, but like gave them free reign to like tell any Star Wars story they wanted to, in any sort of style they wanted to. And so the Star Wars Visions trailer, if you guys watch it, yeah, it's a bunch of different styles of anime, and it has the creators talking about it. What was cool is one of the guys said that it's the last thing that he will ever make. He's like, "Well, I'm glad that like my last
Yeah, that was
project,
cool.
the last project I directed was the Star Wars thing," and I was like, "That's awesome." So I'm very excited. I think so. Here's the thing for me is when it comes to anime, I don't watch it, right? And the reason why I think is just the accessibility. I don't have access to it. I won't go out of my way to find anime, right? Like if I'm just being honest. But if there's anime on Disney Plus, I have Disney Plus. I can open up that app on my phone. I don't have any sort of anime access anywhere else. So I'm hoping. I mean, obviously, I will watch them. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and but will it trans? And it'll probably get a lot more people into anime, which is awesome. What is it gonna? Personally for me, I mean, is it gonna convert me to a super anime fan? I don't know, but it looks really cool.
And now, it really. I don't know if you've seen either of these. They both were on Netflix for a while. Have you seen the Animatrix or Halo Legends? I don't know if they're still on Netflix or not.
Nick says, "Cough, join Anime Club." I've seen the Animatrix a long time ago.
Okay.
This is the same one we're talking about, right? That like came as like it's the Matrix, but it was like its own separate
It was a
DVD.
bunch. It was one movie, but it was a bunch of different animated shorts basically that
Right.
were set in the Matrix world that showed
Yes.
when robots and humans lived together, when this happened, when that happened.
Yes, I have seen that a long, long, long time ago. So
Okay.
I mean, we're talking like over a decade ago. So
Got you.
um but yeah, I think that was very cool. We've obviously talked like Attack on Titan kind of interests me. I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. I know I've watched a couple My Hero Academia episodes, which are really cool, and you explain the references to me, and so you kind of like you bring me in there because you're like, oh, like this person is based on this thing, and I'm like, ah, so there's a lot, all the Star Wars references
Yeah.
and stuff. But I think them pulling directly from Star Wars and these being solely Star Wars based cartoons, Am I allowed to say that? Is that like not?
No,
Is
you.
that like okay? I just didn't know if like that was like a bad phrase for anime or not. Sorry.
No, it's
I
all,
don't.
it's all about where you're at and what we don't want you to pretend to like animes if you don't like animes.
No, I do. I'm not a super fan.
You don't dislike them. It's just there's not really any that you directly like that you're a fan of,
Right.
basically.
Exactly.
You know.
So, but who knows? I mean, the Star Wars visions I could be a very big fan of the Star Wars visions, and if it's super popular, which it probably will be popular enough. Obviously, I think they may continue it. May get a season 2 or a season 3 or like, but and also too, I thought about this because it's been a while since a Star Wars movie,
Yeah.
and I just wonder like with Disney Plus and the Star Wars shows, the Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian, almost said Mandalorian, and now this. Is this the future of Star Wars? Like, are we going in a new like the movies are going to come, right? Like we have Rogue Squadron or whatever, and we have Taika's movie, and like, and then yeah, Kevin Feige is making or producing his own thing or whatever. So, but we're not going to get Star Wars movie for a long time. So I wonder, and a lot of newer generation that's coming up now are growing up on Disney Plus Star Wars, not movie Star Wars.
Well, see, you
So
bring up an
I,
interesting
I
point.
wonder.
It actually does kind of tie into anime. So, a very popular thing with different anime series is when the series finishes or gets halfway done or whatever, they'll release a movie, but it's a recap basically, and it takes the most important scenes from the episode and puts them together into a movie. So Death Note, for example, there are two movies, but those two Death Note movies cover the first half of the show and the second half of the show, and they do change things and tweak things, however, sometimes, not always, where it will be almost the same as the show, but they think it works better with this scene, or they change this character to this, but it's 95% the same. But, and could we see something like that released on Disney Plus, with, in regards to Star Wars, in regards to, the Marvel Cinematic Universe and WandaVision and that type of stuff, could we see almost like an abridged version that's not necessarily redubbed or anything like that, and that's something I'm interested in. I know the Star Wars anime, it seems like they are all separate, like
Yeah.
that they don't build into one big story. One thing that we talked about yesterday that interesting, I want to dive in a little bit here, is the fact that Disney said none of these are canon. And, for those of you who don't know, all canon means is in the same story or having an impact on the greater story. So, in the world where Mando's doing his thing and Rey has her yellow lightsaber and Darth Vader is Luke's father, in that world, these have no impact on it. And at first, I didn't like that. And I still don't necessarily, which is funny because it's like, how can you have an opinion about something you haven't seen? I'll tell you how I can have an opinion about something I haven't seen. Thank you very much, random person in the audience, who is me. But I guess my thing with it, I'm a big comic fan. And in DC, those would be called Elseworld. You get Elseworld stories that don't take place in the main universe. So, like, Robert Pattinson's Batman is technically an Elseworld Batman, since it is not in the main timeline of the Justice League and Aquaman and all this other stuff. They're already working with the multiverse, so who knows how he will end up folding into that picture. But currently, he is Elseworld. He has no impact on the plot of the greater DC world. And so, my thing is, unless you're playing with a character who is already huge, I don't really like when new stuff is non-canon. You know, if you're retconning something, I get it. Like, it's like, oh, we're changing this. It was canon, now it's not. You know,
Yeah.
you know, a good example, since we're talking about Star Wars, would be Han shot first. Han shot Greedo. We know that. But then George Lucas changed who, you know, was in charge of Star Wars, who made it. He was like, you know what? I don't really like that Han kind of starts as a bad guy, that, you know, a morally gray person, that the first thing we see Han do is kill somebody. So, you know, no, actually Greedo shot first. And that's how I edited it, and that's how it is. That's how it's always been, and I'm just going to stick with that. And it's like, you can do that. You know, that, you know, the version where Han shoots first has now become non-canon because he didn't think that went with the version of Han Solo that he wanted to portray. Yeah. I get it. You know, you can change something existing. But my thing is, when you have something new, all of these things look set so far outside of the main Star Wars stories to begin with. Yes. You know, we have all these new characters and all these new planets that we've never seen. My initial reaction is, why? Like, why isn't this canon? Like, it can be canon and have zero impact ever, you know?
Exactly.
Like, and, you know, that was hard for me to accept at first. Not like hard where it's like keeping me up at night, but more hard where I was just like, I don't like that. But, you know, the more I thought about it, the more it's like, okay, well, if these people, you know, I think there's 13 of them. I could be wrong. I think there's 13 episodes made by 13 studios. Yeah. If they are telling their own stories that they're creating, that means these stories have a beginning and have an end. And specifically, I'm thinking about the one that I think looks really cool is The Duel, I think is what it's called, where you have a Jedi Master and a Jedi Padawan, and they find some random, it looks like Sith Lord on some random planet or some random Sith, and they're fighting this old guy, you know, and it looks really cool. That one I'm excited about. And I was like, okay, well, if it ends, you know, and they beat this guy and they destroy him and stuff, let's say that episode turned out amazing and it becomes everybody's favorite episode. If that's canon, well, that guy's just dead. He's gone. If that's how it ends, you know, that this apprentice, you know, maybe, you know, he ended up taking out the master's apprentice, and the master almost went to the dark side, but didn't. You know what I mean? Like, well, that apprentice is gone. That master now went through this journey. But what if we all love that episode, and Disney sees that everybody loves that episode, and it's like, okay, we want to give them more, but 2 out of 3 of these characters are dead. It's like, then I get it, you know, like, by having this non-canon, Disney can kind of see, like, oh, this landed really well. Let's take this character, let's make this master, this Sith master, like their arch nemesis, and give them their own show or their own movie about, you know, based similar on what's happening. That, you know, I kind of get the non-canon in that respect because it frees Disney up to pick and choose what they like and say, we want to expand this. But yeah, so I don't know. What do you think?
Even if they do get, a season 2, I wonder too if they're going to bring back the same studios to continue their stories, or get all new studios to make all new stories. Like, I don't know. It'll be I'm very curious to see the life of this Star Wars Visions project and see where it goes.
It's very funny. I know, you know, we just got the Marvel What If trailer.
Yes.
And while it's not completely the same, it's kind of the same. Where, like, the What If is you know, non-canon as far as we know. You know, it's in different universes.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting that we got that Star Wars trailer of this non-canon animation project telling all these different stories. And then right after that, we get the trailer for the non-canon Disney Marvel animation project telling all these different stories. Do you think that this is kind of Star Wars' version of What If?
Seems like it. Definitely. Seems like it, but I like your perspective that like, oh well, like it could still be canon necessarily and not have an impact on the the Skywalker saga that we've been watching.
Mm-hmm.
So
Do you think
I
we'll
don't
have
know.
any Skywalkers show up
No,
in this?
nope.
No?
I don't think it sounds completely separate. I don't know. Maybe they allowed.
Well, because I don't know if the hut that we saw in the trailer is Jabba or not. I'm
Oh yeah,
assuming it's
true.
Jabba.
I totally forgot about that. I totally forgot that that there was
It,
a hut. In
it
the
reminded me of the pod racing scene in episode 1, like where he was and stuff, you know.
right.
And I was very curious. Your image is frozen again. We still can hear you, however.
Oh, okay.
But
Well, it's hitting 12 o'clock, so uh, I don't know how much longer I'll be able to stay on. Did you freeze too?
no, I did not freeze. But you froze.
Oh, okay.
You unfroze and then you froze again. So I was just
Oh.
observing.
Oh, all right.
Oh, you're back.
Oh, okay.
Don't touch a thing.
Don't touch that thing.
But yes, thankfully we can still hear you even when it does happen. But yeah, you know, it reminded me a lot of the pod racing scene in episode 1. And so that
That
had me
shot
very
did,
curious.
Which, yeah, I guess would be a direct reference to if it's in that moment in time, then it puts us in the same spot as Anakin. So. I don't know. Yeah, and I don't know if Disney gave them specific instructions and said like, hey, you can't reference this, you can't reference Skywalker at all, or you can. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm very curious. I know. Okay, I kind of want to do something a little different, especially we are going to have to. It's not going to be as long a show as normal.
Right.
And so instead of diving straight up into a new topic, if you could make any minor change to Star Wars, and I say minor change, so we don't get to completely change Episode 8. You know, we don't. It's not something like that. I'm thinking more. I mentioned the Han shooting Greedo thing. You know, and just kind of thinking about like the moment. You know, if that is Jabba at the pod race, and if specifically if it's Anakin's pod race, you know what I mean? Then that moment's going to be different since it's non-canon than what we saw in the movies. If you could change any small thing about Star Wars, what would you change? And not even like it's a bad thing, more just like something that you think would be cool to see.
Well, I see. This is kind of so small. Okay, this is considered a small change, and I wouldn't even be. You might not even have to change everything, but I would have made This is kind of a big change, but not really. You could still have the same events. It would just be from a different perspective. I would have made Obi-Wan Kenobi the main character of the prequel trilogy, and had seen his journey throughout episodes 1, 2, and 3. Obviously, you can have Anakin still be a kid. It can all still be pretty much the same events, but like having Obi-Wan Kenobi be the central main character that we see everything through.
That's a good one. I like that. Nick says he would stop the Luke and Leia kiss. That's a good one too, Nick.
Yes. If you had to go back and retcon, I more so took it as like a change and not necessarily like, oh, if we have to go back and retcon.
No, yeah, it can be whatever you want. You know, I think.
For sure.
So this isn't something that's explicitly mentioned in the movies. They do a little bit in Rogue One, but I would change how lightsabers work. That sounds like a huge change. It's really not. So what I mean by that is, you know, we never see anyone assemble a lightsaber. You know, we never saw Luke build his green lightsaber. You know,
Unless you watch the deleted scene.
we never saw Kylo's lightsaber be unstable, so he had to add those vents to let the exhaust out. You know, which is
we never
cool.
actually see a Jedi become a full Jedi.
Yes. And, you know,
Which
it's
is
kind of
very
cool.
strange when you think about it.
Yeah, that is true. You know, there is this established lore in the books that aren't necessarily canon, but to the point where people saw Kylo's lightsaber And before it was ever explained in any book, they were able to say, okay, so he built it, but it was unstable and he had to do this. That's why there's this red wire from here, because there's so much documentation on how a lightsaber works. You know, so people would show on these display models and stuff, they would be like, there's this red wire that goes from here to there because that's the whatever chamber of the lightsaber. And you can see, and they tell the story of his lightsaber just from looking at it, and it is accurate to the canon of the sequel trilogy. So one simple thing I would change is the Force, or a wielder of the lightsaber's connection with the Force can affect the lightsaber. And so only change that would happen, so basically, you know, is during the fight on Mustafar, when Anakin is fighting Obi-Wan, there would be this moment of like just rage and whatnot, and during that moment his lightsaber would slowly start to change to red, like almost like a virus. Like you see it like change, and then all of a sudden it becomes a completely red lightsaber. I think that would be kind of cool.
Well, I remember, I think it was back when The Force Awakens was coming out. You mentioned that you've talked about that before. And I can't remember if that was when we got revealed the Kylo lightsaber. I can't remember if that's when you told me that, because you were like, "Oh, is that what's happening in the movie?" This is before we even saw the movie, but like you were like, "Is it reacting to him?" Or am I wrong? Did I make that up, or did you say that?
No, I referenced what I told you about how the wire and stuff like that Disney put out, like, as part of their promotional thing. You could go to some sort of Star Wars exhibit and it had props from the movie. And one of the props was, or at least replicas, was Kylo's lightsaber. And you had these people doing like extensive write-ups on how these vents were added afterwards. And you can see this wire coming from here and this and that, and this is this chamber of the lightsaber. So they were telling the story of an unstable Force user. Before, and does it say no data? No, we're good. They were telling the story of an unstable Force user, that they were like, this is what this lightsaber does, before we ever actually saw Kylo in the movie. Which is cool, because he did have an unstable connection with the Force, and that's why it was, you know, and it's just so cool that there was that much attention to detail put into it. That's what we were talking about before. It was after I read that write-up, and I was like, or I think it was after we saw the movie, and I was like, yo, this is what that write-up said. It said that this guy's got these exhausts on it because he's unstable with the Force and this and that, and that he's not refined as a Jedi. But yeah, I do know there was not a deleted scene, and I don't think they ever even made it. There was concept art. One of the original plans for the battle on Mustafar was some giant beast, some like, not lava monster, but some sort of animal that like lives in the there's concept art, so I'll have to pull it up for you sometime. Interrupts Obi-Wan and Anakin's battle, and they then have to team up in the middle of their fight to destroy this thing before they can finish their fight with each other, you know.
And the producers were like, that's going to cost another $100 million to do, or you know, $60 million to produce that sequence, George. We may have to cut that out, but that sounds cool.
Yeah, no, it's, you know, which, who knows, maybe we get something like that, you know, in one of these animes one day.
Yeah. You
know, maybe the whole thing is the fight, which would be cool. Like Nick says, that my take sounds almost like almost more of an exploration to the religious aspects of the Force in Star Wars. Yeah, you know, that's what George Lucas took every inspiration he could get, you know, and I think that would be so cool, just to see a lightsaber, you know, as Anakin's like fully gives into the dark side, you know, maybe even before the high ground moment, you know, when he's like, don't do it, I have the high ground, you know what I mean? And he looks up full of rage, and then all of a sudden the lightsaber just changes to red, and you know he's gonna do it. And then, yeah, I don't know. As far as small changes go, that would be my small change, is just, you know, you see a Jedi start to get tempted with the the dark side and their lightsaber starts to change, or vice versa. You know, in the Clone Wars, there's the moment where Ahsoka almost brings Anakin back to the light side, or Darth Vader back. You know, you see it when she talks to him and tries to call out to him, and his mask is broken. You see his pupils start to dilate, like he remembers, and he looks sad, and then it goes back to small and rage-filled, and they continue the fight. You know, like something like that, where like all of a sudden the lightsaber starts to shift from like red to white for a second in that moment. You know, like it just lightens up a little bit. It's like a Jedi mood ring, you know, Star Wars mood ring.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. All right. Well, I gotta get going. I can't stay on much longer.
That is fine. Do you have anything else you would like to discuss before you go?
No, I think we're good. I'm excited for both of these projects. I'm excited for Mario. I'm excited for, you know, the OLED thing. Okay,
Yep.
call me when there's a pro, I guess. Thank you, but well, because there was so much hype built up. I'm honest. There's so much hype built up for this Switch Pro by you guys, and I was like, oh, okay,
It's
cool.
coming. It's coming.
I'm sure it is, but I
know.
was just like, oh, this? Oh, okay. But I'm very excited for the Mario movie. I'm very excited for Star Wars Visions. Star Wars Vision comes out in August.
I think
September.
So end of September, right?
Yes. Sorry, What If comes out in August. My bad.
Yeah. And Black Widow just came out yesterday. Haven't seen it
yeah.
yet, but probably gonna watch it this weekend.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. Might watch it this weekend as well. I don't know. I have a lot of homework to do.
But that is it for today, guys.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. It has been such a fun time to be able to talk with you guys about Star Wars and Mario movies and Switch Pros and hang out with you in the chat. Seriously, appreciate every single person who commented in the chat and every single person who's just lurking and watching for entertainment's sake. You know, you are just as valuable to us as any other member of the community. So thank you guys so much for joining us. We will see you next time. Until then, stay awesome.
Stay awesome, guys. Bye-bye.